I'd like to begin and move it with an acknowledgement, with respect, the Pongo and the speaking peoples whose territory, traditional territory, University of Victoria stands, and the Songhees, the Esquimalt, and the Sonic peoples whose historical relationship with the land continues to today. So we're privileged and happy to be here. The youth panel that you're here for this morning is a new feature of the Moving Trans History Forward conference. And our theme this year is from generation to generation, right? From generation to generation. So, of course, youth are the current generation coming up and who will be building the future. And Moving Trans History Forward is about looking to the past, learning from the past, acknowledging and understanding what we're doing today, and looking to the future. So the youth here are going to be our future, who are started their work already and are going to be telling you about that work, and I'm very excited to hear what they have to say. I also, on acknowledgements, want to acknowledge that we have the Chancellor of the University of Victoria and a very famous person in Canada, Sheila Rogers, with us today. Also would like to acknowledge and say with great appreciation that the panel this morning is sponsored by Van City Credit Union. So please patronize our sponsors, and thank you very much to Van City. Also, Alex McAdams here, and Cindy Holmes, or Cindy, did a lot of behind-the-scenes work to...
Really, Alex?
And Cindy has said this before, she's just said it again for you. Really, Alex has done a tremendous amount of work to make this event happen today and to bring together all these fine young people to talk to you. So I wanted to acknowledge that and thank them as well. So the panel will be introduced and moderated by Aidan Key. I know Aidan as the originator and the head of the hugely successful Gender Odyssey conferences that have been happening in Seattle since 2001. They started out as small conferences, mostly for trans-masculine adults, and in 2007, Aidan and his team started the Gender Odyssey Family Conferences, and 2012 expanded further to provide Gender Odyssey training for professionals who work with gender-varying people. In 2017, just yesterday, a second round of Gender Odyssey professionals was added in Los Angeles. Aidan said to me yesterday, "It must be crazy to do this." It's every year, it's a huge amount of work, and it's a hugely successful conference. And those of you who are interested in any of those areas and have never been, I recommend you go. Thousands of people's lives are improved every year because of their contact with the Gender Odyssey conferences. Aidan Key is also the founder of Gender Diversity, an organization dedicated to providing support and educational services with respect to the inclusion of transgender and gender-variant children. Aidan serves as a consultant to dozens of school districts across the U.S. regarding transgender K-12 student inclusion. He facilitates the largest network of parent support groups in the U.S. and offers training and policy development for schools, organizations, and other youth-based organizations across the U.S. So Aidan is an ideal person to be moderating today. Please welcome Aidan Key.
Thank you, Aaron, for the introduction, and I don't know, I think we ought to just get right to it. Okay. It's kind of great. Well, maybe you got that one raised eyebrow. I love that. I live for that, actually. So I, just for some housekeeping options for you all, I might flash you with this, or I might, if I need to. So just know that. And this is your time, or you do that one. Or maybe. And then I may just blow it off altogether because rules are made to be broken. So if we can take just a few minutes in that 3 to 4 minute range and have you introduce yourselves, share pronouns, name, gender identity, the way you express it, your ancestry and or where you grew up, anything that you want to share, your trans activism to date. We'd love to hear this introduction part, and I'm going to start on the furthest end. My buddy True.
My name is Jocelyn. I'm a 14-year-old transgender activist in Vancouver. I live in Lavender, Delta, and go to Delta Secondary School. I transitioned when I was 9 in my private school, to a private school, and they denied me access to the girls' bathrooms and didn't allow me to transition to school. So we filed complaints against them and successfully got a policy as a gender expression and identity. Feels like a Toy Story song. And that's how my activism started, and I've just been growing from there. And now I speak at schools and events and try to spread awareness for just trans kids and the LGBTQ community and help make the world a better place.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay. I'm a female to male transgender individual. I transitioned just over 5 years ago. I'm 19 now, and I transitioned to North Vancouver where I live. I had a very smooth transition actually. I sat on quite a few panels with True actually. We've known each other for about 5 years. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Hi everybody, I'm Jocelyn Baker. I am currently in high school in grade 12 here in Victoria, and I do a lot of activism around my school. I'm one of the co-leaders of the Pride Club, and we really work to raise awareness for LGBTQ people, and especially more and more trans people, as two of our leaders, two of the 3 leaders are trans. So we're doing a lot of work to make sure there's a lot of visibility for trans people in the school, working with the school to develop better policies for trans people, and also working to get students out into the community and be activists themselves. So we're working on raising the next generation, even younger generation of trans kids.
Hello, my name is Jenny. I am a female transgender. My pronouns are he, him, and
All right, so as I dig into these questions, not everybody needs to respond. So take your cues from your heart or your desire to contribute, and I promise I'll not put you on the spot, or I will put you on the spot. I don't know, we'll find out. But I would love to dig into this next question about the conference's theme, from generation to generation. So what ways do you see yourself and other young two-spirit, non-binary, and trans people moving trans history forward for your own and future generations? What ways do you see what you do in the world helping to move trans history forward for your specific generation, but also for those younger folks?
so for a start, I'm part of this writing program called Transgender. We are writing this book that has some of our experiences and a lot of stuff that can help trans youth. Right now, the whole TTP group is in the works of changing the LGBTQ policy for MCFD, the social policy.
I think what we've been able to do as youth, and what I've been able to do as part of the Pride Club of my school, has really just been to be a role model for future trans people. I know I didn't have that as much because trans people weren't there wasn't as much exposure for us at our school, there wasn't really any attention at all brought to us, and there weren't policies in place that allowed us to express our identity effectively. So really, I think as myself, what I've done to make it make the situation better for future trans children and future generations is to make the situation in my school better and make my school more of a place where LGBTQ issues are acknowledged and talked about on the regular as opposed to something that's really pushed under the carpet and not talked about at all.
I couldn't have said that myself. But when I started my activism, what I wanted to do was make it. I wasn't expecting a perfect world where everybody was totally okay with trans people and it was like totally accepted, because I know that's probably not going to happen. Knowing that everybody has their own opinions, but I just wanted to make it more aware, because as a kid I always knew who I was. Like, I knew that I wasn't a boy, but I didn't have the words to describe. I didn't have the words to describe it because it wasn't a thing that my school talked about or that my family talked about. It wasn't a very big topic when I was young. And so what I want to do is to make it a safer and better world for the next generation, and hope that my kids can walk into a world that has hopefully less discrimination and just a safer environment for them to grow up and become themselves in.
Oh yeah, no, keep going.
As a younger generation coming out and transitioning, I think it really helps pave the way for future generations that are going to come out and transition. People that transitioned 10, 20, even 30 years ago really helped us have an easier time transitioning, made it known, made people realize what transgender is and how there's such a spectrum to it. And then now us coming out, people realize, oh, you don't have to transition later in life, you can transition when you're younger, and then that's going to help younger generations that are going to come along. The older generations paved the road for us, and we're helping finishing off that and paving the road for the next generation to come.
Have any of you had an opportunity to work with or talk with your other youth your own age or even younger kids who are navigating gender? And if you have a specific example, I'd love to hear about it.
Because I transitioned very young, I was went up against the Catholic School Board of Vancouver. I wasn't very secretive about my transition. I didn't really have a choice. But I was very public, and I was known, I'd say I was known around Vancouver as the young trans girl who went up against the Catholic School Board. And apparently that got to some of the people in my generation, and they saw me on TV and wanted and saw me as a role model, and they wanted to be like me and wanted to be okay with being trans and to feel confident enough to come out to their families. And so years later, I went to a conference in West End and I met a whole bunch of trans youth my age. And everyone that I met there, I later found out at a giant sleepover that we were having. We were sharing stories about our transitions, and I found out that I inspired them all to come out to their parents. And I broke down crying, and I probably will now, because it's just all I really wanted to do, and knowing that I actually succeeded with that, and that I allowed my friends to come out and feel accepted in their communities and feel like they belong. It's a really heartwarming thing. And,
I know a lot of trans and queer youth from my school and from the local community who approach me whose parents are not very accepting at all. I think all of us, or a lot of us on this panel, are very lucky to to have really accepting parents that have been like really helpful in helping us transition early in our lives, and that's been really amazing. But there are so many kids out there whose parents aren't aware of what it means to be transgender and aren't accepting of that, and can be really negative about the LGBTQ community and really discriminatory. And I know one youth in particular who has wanted to transition for longer or as long as I have, I think, their whole life, just like a lot of us here. And they haven't been able to even talk to their parents about it because of what they've heard their parents say about the gay community, about the LGBTQ community in general. So I think that's really just being able to be there and be a role model for how you can talk to adults, how you can set an example of just being trans or just being normal as well, or just, you know, being a person. I think that's really how we can be an example for future generations.
What do you think is the most important thing for adults to know about what it means to be two-spirit, trans, and or non-binary youth? Is there anything you'd specifically like trans adults to know? And if I were to shorten that question, I would say, when you're really pissed off and you want to curse me out as a trans adult, what is it that comes to mind?
I would say nothing really. In all honesty, I have nothing to be mad at you guys about. You guys have paved the way for us and made it so much, I wouldn't say easier, but made it I can't find the words. Can anybody help me out?
More possible?
Yes, more possible. Thank you so much. You made it more possible for us to feel comfortable and to transition within our homes and to come out to our parents. And I honestly, all I have to say to you is thank you.
The various generations of trans, non-binary, two-spirit experience really seem to be have a lot of unique variables. So you can also add what we'd like all of us as adults to know about what might be different from your perspective.
If you see someone struggling, I know a lot of you here. You always go up to them and help them, and it's the best thing in the world. Thank you, Jocelyn. I don't really know what else to say.
Yes, I don't know, it's said by everyone else here, but we just want to thank you so much for all that you've done for the trans community, for paving the way for all of us. But we also just want you to know that you are our mentors and our leaders, and you serve as examples and people who we can follow. And I think that even though it may seem like this transitioning is a personal thing and hasn't really affected other people, or seem like maybe it hasn't affected us, every single one of you has really had a profound impact on our experience of being transgender.
I agree with what everyone else has said. The trans adults have definitely impacted us greatly in so many positive ways by helping us see that there are way more trans people out there than you ever would have imagined. I mean, you're surrounded by people in here, so. I think I've met some older trans people, and I think what I would like them to know is that being trans is also, it can be a spectrum. I've met some older trans people when they transition. You either become male or become female, and that's it. They stay very binary, and some older trans folks have a hard time coming around and realizing it's not just a binary scale. I think they need to understand that it's a very diverse scale. Aiden started Gender Odyssey, so gender is an odyssey, I guess. It's very diverse, and I'm not sure if they ever will come around, but obviously, Aiden's generation seems to be pretty good with it. But I've met some older people who have definitely struggled with the whole diversity of being trans and stuff. They've just kept it very binary. But overall, all the trans adults I've met have been super awesome.
So the question, next question, is a two-parter, three-parter. Do you feel welcomed in two-spirit, trans, and non-binary communities, or within trans activist communities? And if yes, what helps you feel connected? If not, what would help make these spaces more accessible?
Yes, I do feel welcome. I was very nervous at the start of my transition to meet other trans kids or just trans people in general, because I felt like an amateur. I don't know why, but I felt like this this feeling like I was only because I was only starting to learn about the LGBT community, and when I did talk on panels and such, I felt like I wasn't meant to be there because I didn't know a lot, and I was just only speaking from personal experience, and I had no idea what other experiences were like, or how other people thought about situations. But everybody made me feel so welcome. It's such a caring and kind community, and I love it so much, and I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I'm so happy to be accepted. And I feel like the thing that helps me feel accepted and, well, feel like I belong is just sort of just showing kindness and letting people know that you care and are there for them. And that's really what helps me the most. And yeah, it's what's gotten me through, and it's what's helped me met all of the lovely people that I know today.
Just a show of hands, how many people are just faking their way through it? Okay, so you're ahead of us because you at least feel like an amateur. So awesome. Does anybody else want to add to that question about whatever the question was that I said? Do you feel welcome? Do you feel connected? If not, what could be more helpful? Jocelyn?
The Pride Club operates a safe space every Friday at lunch, and that's, I guess you can sort of equate that as a sort of mini LGBTQ community within the school. It's not exclusively trans or two-spirit, but we definitely try to be as welcoming and kind as those qualities that she was mentioning as possible. But also I think that helps us because we invite students, and we've had two-spirit, trans, and queer students come from other schools, and people come from other schools to participate in our community. We've had students go into those other communities, and they felt really welcome. And I think that all that safe spaces really can do is just remain open and be there to educate students and educate kids and youth on different issues, identities, and just be there to help them on their way.
Are there two-spirit, trans, or non-binary people that you look up to or who have significantly impacted your life? And I would add to that, if you could share in what way, that would be great.
Yeah, and his name is Miles Chronicles. They use their pronouns, and they taught me to be myself, and they taught me to not be ashamed of who I am. They also are changing a lot of things, and it makes me feel super happy.
Fantastic.
I would say that people that I looked up to as I was starting my transition, as I've gone through it, have been people like us on these panels and just speaking about our experience and just listening to different experiences and how different people are doing things and how they cope with it, and just feel like there are local people that are like me and that I'm not alone. Like going to the Gender Odyssey conference for the first time was a big thing for me. I had never seen so many trans people in one place, much less in front of me. And it was amazing. So to be up here and to be talking like this it can be almost surreal sometimes because I think of little 9-year-old me with her pink frilly skirts and oh gosh, I was very, very feminine when I first transitioned. But besides that, I think of little me in those crowds and watching those people, and I think of how I could be impacting someone like that, and it's a fantastic feeling, and I hope to continue doing it throughout my life because it's very important to me, and I just love doing this.
There's a lot of people that I look up to. Gavin, who's sitting over there in particular, he was one of the first trans people I ever met when I transitioned. I met him at Gender Odyssey. He's been very great. I try to talk to him regularly, as much as I can. Anyone that transitioned before me, who I could talk to, was very influential. Was very helpful in my transition because they had been where I wanted to go, and so I could ask them questions, and they could tell me about their experience, even though my experience would be different than theirs. It was very helpful to know what lies ahead of me. Yeah.
I don't really have a specific example for you. I remember in grade 2 browsing the internet and trying to figure out what I was feeling and what that meant and where it was coming from, and learning about trans people and this whole amazing community, and really just realizing that that's how I felt. And just the internet has just been an amazing tool for us as young people, and for me especially. I don't think I would be where I am today or be out and transgender if I didn't have that resource. And so just everyone who's contributed online and talked about their experiences for us to learn from are my role models.
What changes would benefit young two-spirit, non-binary, and trans people? How would you like to see young people involved in making these changes?
So I think people should really think of what they say when they're talking in front of a crowd. For example, like saying, "Hello, ladies and gentlemen," it should be, "Hello, wonderful humans." And all bathrooms should be gender neutral. And like when you go to stores when you're first transitioning and you go to like, say, females now, you're going to the nail section, you get looks, and they're bad looks. I think stores should have a unisex section where you can get clothes, male or female. I don't even see why clothes should have genders.
I go to a school where we have uniforms, and a lot of work has gone into allowing students to choose what type of uniform they want to wear, whether it be pants or a kilt or a fitted shirt or a not fitted shirt. That those are really political things in my school and have taken a long time to overturn. And I just think that we should stop, like as you said, separating kids based on their gender or lack of gender or whatever their identity is, and also stop separating what they wear and take away those markers that can indicate those different things if students don't want to use them.
I think there needs to be more support for gender diverse youth regarding mental health. A lot of people have other mental health, not problems, but like things within their life. I think we should have help for depression, anxiety, OCD, everything else under the sun. I think there needs to be more support for gender diverse youth in those areas. It seems to be lacking from what I've noticed. In North Van, I'm not sure how the island is, and I'm sure Vancouver has more diverse, but especially in smaller areas, there tends to be very little support in those areas.
I would say to stop just gendering things like activities and clothes. I've noticed that it's become more acceptable for girls to do more inherently masculine things, but when a guy decides as a kid that he wants to be a fashion designer, it's frowned upon, and they assume that he's less of a man, or he's not. It just frustrates me because, and also just ways of being, like I've run into kids who, well, I've had guy friends who are completely straight, but they act very feminine, and they're very giggly, and they act like inherently the stereotype of being gay. They act that way, but they're straight. And one of my girlfriends was over me and was like, I think he's in the closet, and I'm like, you don't know that. It's just it frustrated me, and I just think that we should change our way of viewing certain personalities and activities and clothes and just everything in general, and just trying to gender things and put in a box. And why not just have it be and open to everybody? Like, why does there have to be a girls section in H&M and then a separate, basically a separate building for the men? That always seemed very weird to me. But I actually very much like the guy sweaters, but I'm getting off topic. I just think as a personal opinion that we should make all activities and clothes more open and just all genders, and not have such a hard view on what is masculine, what is feminine, and what makes us who we are.
Well, I wanted to know if any of you would share in your life path here, what has surprised you, whether that was an interaction with a person or whatever, in a really fantastic way or maybe a not so great way? Was there something that came along and really hit you out of the blue?
1 year when I was at Gender Odyssey, I was walking, I was just in the conference, and a little girl came up to me, and she reminded me of me when I first transitioned, because she was wearing a big, frilly pink skirt and a nice sequin shirt and a headband, and she looked super adorable. And her mom came up with her, and she was hiding behind her mom and being really shy. And the mom said, "This is horrible things," but she introduced her daughter and said, "You inspired her to transition." And I was like, "Oh, how old is she?" And when did she transition? And she transitioned when she was 5 or 6. And that, I was taken aback, because I was so happy that she was able to find herself at such a young age and have the words describe who she was, and felt comfortable enough to come out to her family. But I was just so surprised that I was part of that. And it was fantastic. I was so happy that she was able to find herself and be able to express herself at such a young age, and it just made me really happy. And for the rest of the day, I was just had a skip my step, and I was skipping, and I was like, maybe a little girl come out at 5 years old. I came out to this one person who was my big supporter, and I go to them for everything. And they've helped me through so much. They introduced me to TTP, and I'm very, very happy for that. I made so much friends. I didn't think I would. She's helped me accept me for who I am.
I think something that certainly surprised me was the first person I came out to, because I wasn't really as practiced in my wording. I basically told them that I was transgender and that I always felt like I was a girl. And and then I was like whisked away for something very fast after that, which was really unfortunate. But the next day, that person was going around the school asking if I was a girl because they thought that I had transitioned female to male. And that was a really funny experience. So, yeah, it's really ambiguous actually still. No. Yeah, but that was really fun to have. Or run around the school asking everyone if I was a girl. I know. Weird experience.
I have had that happen too many times where I have come up because I told them, hey, I'm trans. I was born as a guy and I transitioned to a girl when I was 9. And they're like, no, you didn't. And they look at me and they're like, no. And I have to, like, literally, I have to Google myself and show them, like, trans girl, those things happen. And I have to literally prove to them that I'm trans. And it's hilarious because one of my friends was so convinced that I was a cisgendered girl and that I was not trans that she really went to my parents. She went to my brother and she said, is your sister trans? And he looked at me, looked at her, and was like, no, yes. And it was so, I've had that happen way too many times.
I think something that's really surprising is how far the system, working through it, whether medical or because you, depending what you want to do in your transition, you have to see certain doctors, or you need to see a psychiatrist, which is still a doctor. I think it's amazing how far our system has come from when I first transitioned now to how many more doctors and surgeons there are out there. And it's going to be really exciting to see how much farther and how much more accessible our system can get in the coming years.
So last question from me. If you had advice for young two-spirit, trans, or non-binary people, including advice for your younger self, reflecting back, what would that be?
My advice would be to not compare yourself to anybody.
Nice.
No matter what it is, you are amazing just the way you are. Also to be very patient for what's to come. Because it's a long road, but it's going to be fun. I'm not going to put attitude. Coming out to your parents is terrifying. As a kid, I got so scared that one time at recess, I started crying because I was thinking of coming out to my parents and them not loving me and like throwing me on the street or something ridiculous, and it scared me so much. But you need to have faith, and you'll never know if you don't try. And even if it turns out horrible with your family, you can always find support. I've heard and witnessed many situations where they don't have the support at home, but they find support in their community and their friends, and even their friends' family. Like I've had friends who rely on their other friends' parents for support because their own blood family won't accept them, and you will always find support. I can promise you that. And it may not be in your family, but if that's the case, then you just have to keep pushing forward. You cannot give up.
I think my advice to my younger self and to any future or younger trans people is just repeat what Andrea Jenkins said last night, which is that self-love is the only true kind of love, or the most important kind of love. I think that's extremely true. You have to value yourself. You have to love yourself and recognize that you have to be your true self. So, although it's going to be extremely scary to come out to people, you have to recognize that you are important and you are not less important than anyone else, and to yourself, you should be the most important person in your life. And just recognize that in realizing that coming out, regardless of the outcome, is going to be worth it.
Don't give up, it always gets better, eventually. It can take time for some, or in others it just seems to be smooth sailing, but it does always get better.
Okay, and so just a couple last thoughts, and then Erin will have a couple last thoughts. I mean, some takeaways that I took were just about, one of the ways to be immediately supportive is to get a pronoun. This is kind of, I'm preaching to the choir here, so. But I also heard Danny and Stevie say, reach out to youth more. Jocelyn, you said something about engaging with people with civility. That's really powerful. True self, one of my favorites, I can't remember who said it, was that being unsure about your gender is awesome. It's a great place to be, even if it's a little uncomfortable. And I just want to thank you all for your courage to be open and vulnerable. I know it's a little nerve-wracking, especially because everybody made you get up so early to be here. But I just want to thank you all for showing up today. Big round of applause.
Thank you. To all of you, you've been inspirational. You can see from the reaction that you just got that you are teaching us and you are leaders of not just youth but adults as well. So we thank you very much. It was really moving. I thank Aiden for being one more group that I would like to say thank you to, and I would like the family members who have been supporting these kids to stand up and take a round of applause as well.